Number 2 is to moisturize. I'm sure most of you are smart enough to know what kind of foods you should be avoiding.
So you need to think, what kind of scar do I have?
Our skin does not dictate our purpose, and it doesn't define our identity.
My advice with cleansing is no more than twice a day, and be gentle. So if one of your cleansers can incorporate a nice gentle exfoliant like salicylic acid, which like Dr. B says unclogs your pores, that's going to really help with the cleansing regime. Number 2 is to moisturize. Again, a common myth associated with acne is that oily skin doesn't need that moisturizer. Here we need moisturizer for 2 reasons. One is to maintain the skin barrier function of the skin, and secondly, a lot of the actives can often dry the skin, so we need to add that moisture in to protect that barrier. Number 3, as with most things in life, be consistent. So don't expect overnight results or miracles, whether it is an ingredient in your skin regime, your over-the-counter treatment, your prescription treatment, or your antibiotic. You need to allow time for it to work, and with the skin cycle, that's usually 6 to 8 weeks. So be patient.
So I'm just going to explain to you guys this horrible drawing that I made on paint. So what tends to happen, every time your blood is exposed to any kind of glucose, your pancreas sends in all this insulin to push all that sugar or glucose back into your cells. Now, if you keep exposing your blood to things that have high sugar spikes, essentially, you will over time keep pumping out that insulin, keep using that key. And what happens to a key after you use it over and over and over again? It gets worn out, right? And that's exactly what happens in insulin resistance. The insulin that you were using before stops working over time, so your body needs to use more and more insulin. And over time, your cells just stop responding to that insulin completely, and you're left with a really high blood sugar level. Okay? Of course, that tends to happen worse when you're doing a lot of a yo-yo effect with your diet, and that tends to happen when you're having lots of high glycemic index foods, that are foods that release more sugar, okay, or raise your blood sugar. Now, what food? We've talked about high GI and low GI. I've got a little diagram. I'm sure most of you are smart enough to know what kind of foods you should be avoiding. You probably can Google this yourself. If there's one thing I want you guys to take away, is that with diet, it's really difficult to sustain it if you keep taking things away. So if you take nothing away, I want you to say they're going to add something to your diet, and I want you all to add vegetables to your diet, because vegetables are a low glycemic index. Not many people know that, but vegetables are actually all carbs. They're just complex carbs. So you could take away your bread and everything else that's in the second pile, and you'll be fine living on just vegetables. I mean, how do animals do it, right? So add vegetables. They're low glycemic index, so they have more of a flattened effect in terms of your blood sugar. They're nutrient dense. They're full of vitamins and minerals, which actually strengthen your immune system and help you fight that inflammation in your body. They are high fiber, so they're actually really good for your gut health. I know one of the speakers are going to talk about your gut health later. And they're hydrating. They actually contain so much fluid in them, and we all know water is really good for your skin. I don't need to educate anyone on that.
How do I treat scars, or how should you be approaching to treat your scars if you have scars? So you need to think, what kind of scar do I have? I can raise my hands, got one here. I get it all the time. So it's just a lot more common in skin of colour. So we need to reduce the height of the scar. So how are we going to do that? Steroid injections, absolutely brilliant. I also use lasers to introduce the steroid into the skin, so CO2 will help with that. And using pulse dye laser with new, fresh red scars is really, really good at helping flattening them down. I try and combine a few together because you want to make the most of your time, right? You don't want to keep coming back recurrently. So I try and combine a few treatments together. And you've also got to remember, everyone will have all these types of scars in just one person. So you're not just going to be dealing with raised scars. You might have depressed scars, you might have raised scars, you might have a combination all over. So we've got to be holistic when we're trying to treat people with acne scarring.
Things you need to look for, we've kind of talked about a lot of these. Oil-free, hypoallergenic is good in terms of not contributing to inflammation. Mineral-based makeup is good, and they'll often contain zinc, clay. Some of them will actually even contain salicylic acid in a makeup product. Avoid drying ingredients, sensitizing ingredients, acrylics, silicons, anything that's going to block those pores. And within, and my bugbear, Clinique's toner. Clinique toner, even smell the alcohol from the next room. Do not use that, please. So alcohol, which is super, super dry. If it's high up on that list of ingredients, just chuck it. Don't even do it in the granny, just chuck it.
I want people to remember that even though we're talking about acne and skin, our skin does not dictate our purpose and it doesn't define our identity. It's useful to get good tips like what we're talking about tonight, but beauty is being comfortable and confident in your own skin, like Iman said. So the hormone imbalances we've spoken about today, like puberty, pregnancy, and also PCOS, often contribute to acne. And it's important to know that when we get a lot of insulin in the body from eating too much sugar or having insulin resistance, this actually drives women's ovaries to produce testosterone, and a lot of people don't know that we actually produce that testosterone from the ovaries, and that drives the oil production. Many of my patients are using a lot of oil-based cosmetic products, and we've spoken about how when sebum builds up in the pores, this can lead to acne, so it's a good idea to avoid oil-based products. We've already spoken about stress and how when we have cortisol dysfunction, which is produced from our adrenal glands when we're stressed, again, this can cause the body to produce more oil. And when the brain is dealing with stress, there's another hormone called cortisol, corticotrophin releasing hormone, and that actually works directly on the pores to produce more oil in them. There are some nutritional deficiencies that can contribute to acne. So for example, if we're not getting enough vitamin A in our diet, we can suffer from acne. Ways that people try to tackle acne, so they have good intention, but they often go wrong. And small modifications can have a really big impact on the success of the treatment. So we've already spoken about how we need to manage bacteria when we're looking at acne, and people try to do this by using a lot of soap and using really strong antibacterial soap. So I remember my mum giving me a really strong yellow soap. But actually this is the completely wrong thing to do, because soap is alkali and our skin in its natural state is acidic, and we want to keep the skin acidic so that the microbiome, so this is the different bacteria on the skin, can be balanced. The acidic skin helps the good bacteria to be happy and it keeps the bad bacteria at bay, but if you just wipe everything off, then you're going to get proliferation of that bad bacteria. So soap is alkali, and also toothpaste is alkali, so putting toothpaste on spots is just the wrong thing to do. Everyone's skin is different, and people can see inflammation if they're not using it right. So if you've got sensitive skin, it's better to start off gently and then work your way up.
So with that, I'd like to conclude our teaching for tonight, and now I want you to eat, because everyone's starving, including me and you. Thank you, everybody.